Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 19th of May, comes to you from London. And we see quite a lot of red on the screen this morning, so markets just struggling a little bit. We first of all start by looking at currencies. We'll look at stocks, major stock indices, some commodities, and last of all, we'll focus on European energy. So we see here that the dollar is sinking lower. And we are looking now like we're going to threaten this low that we saw back in January. So the recovery that we saw through the cloud, we're back below the cloud, and we've got some quite big downside targets around 20% on the dollar. Of course, those are very long-term targets. This short-term target, 5% lower, gives us an idea, and that will mean that we come under pressure on this key level that we saw previously will break. Looking at the euro, that means the euro is looking stronger. We're up through the cloud. Remembering this is my weekly, my daily, and my 60-minute chart, my long-term, medium-term, and short-term view of the market. And that if we're above the cloud, we're bullish. When we're below the cloud, we're bearish. And the corresponding log scale point and figure charts, long, medium, and short term as well. So taking a look there, the euro is looking stronger. Also, sterling looking stronger against that weaker dollar, nudging that high that we saw in February. And we've got a target of 150, interim target of 146.70. That's looking pretty likely. 146 certainly looking likely. Against the euro, sterling sitting at 116. Inflation numbers out in the UK this morning, just affecting sterling a little bit, but interestingly, no great change against the euro. We're fairly flat the last few days. Bullish on the medium and long-term picture, of course. Bitcoin was below $40,000 in the 30s. We've got targets. We talked about this. Targets to $30,000. That's a further 25% downside. We're seeing that capitulation occurring there. And if we look at the S&P 500 index, that's falling as well. So we were down nearly 1% yesterday. Equity markets just really starting to struggle. This might be the year sell in May and go away pays. And we're seeing here on the NASDAQ, the risk of breaking below the cloud on the daily chart is increasing. We're still bearish in the short term as well. The futures are lower. We're down 2/3 on the S&P future, and on the NASDAQ future down 1%. So tech looking vulnerable, and the VIX volatility up 5%. So the fear index showing itself again this morning. The FTSE future is down 1.1%. The DAX in Germany down by a similar amount. So we are seeing markets really selling off. The CAC 40 down by 1% as well. Japan was down 2/3%. Hong Kong was closed today, but if we look at the Shanghai market, we actually were down 0.5% there. India down slightly. The Aussie market back below 7,000. Just couldn't break to a new high, and quite a big sell-off there. So we're seeing that. We'll cover crude oil in a minute when we look at energy. Looking at some of the commodities, we're seeing sentiment just across the board really lower. Wheat down 2%, corn down 1%. Gold holding on to its levels, 1867, and silver down 1%, but looking set long term for a big break out of this ascending triangle. Yields up, and that's one of the things that's spooking markets at the moment. We're seeing the 10-year yield sitting at 1.66%, moving back into short-term bullish territory. Upside targets looking like the mid-170s is where we're going. Of course, this big target of 3.3% is the one that we're watching. Up 1% on the 30-year yield. And German Bund prices below the 169 level. We've been saying that a move below 170 on the Bund was bad. The long-term trend of the bond market is actually falling away, and we've got downside targets. So looking like bond markets, we're going to see a rise, and of course inflation and interest rates being very much the story, and that's affecting market sentiment generally. Looking at Brent crude, again, we just couldn't break that $70 mark. We got there yesterday, and then just fell away. So this is pretty clear resistance. We've got a downside target of 65.18. We've got mixed targets on the 1 minute chart. If you're trading crude oil, watch these charts and be prepared to vary your box size. Here we see the smaller boxes is giving us levels much lower on crude, so that's something to watch. US nat gas is down as well. That was looking very strong at the start of the week, but falling back quite sharply. So we've seen a real pullback there. RBOB gasoline also falling, and did manage to just kick a little bit higher on the pipeline story last week, but really not holding those gains either. Coal pulling back to $77, at risk of breaking below the 60-minute chart. Watch that on your systems and those downside targets. Keep an eye on the 1 minute chart on your OTC data. And looking at emissions, they're falling back quite strongly as well. Hitting that 56.90 level, that's quite key. There was 55.70 was the target there on the daily chart. We're pulling back now from that, and that's also quite key. Gas markets down quite sharply this morning. MBP down 3%, TTF down 3% as well on the front month products. And if we look at the seasonal, that's falling away as well, back through the daily, the 60-minute cloud. So short-term bearish. Also, power markets pulling back. So we're just seeing a general deterioration in energy. The 1 minute charts, again, quite key here. Bury your box size and keep an eye on your OTC data. 60.50 is the target here. And if we make new lows, then we could be back below 60. So we are seeing a sell-off there showing up yesterday in that big downside candle for power. So that's quite key. And we were neutral this week on power because we felt that we had run quite a bit. We're seeing Nordic power bucking the trend. It's still up this morning, up about 0.6%. So that's looking stronger. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.